teaching executives specifically on how to entertain and inspire business audience. Okay, let me start by this. Mark. Let me start by quoting Mark Twain on his view of college education. Okay, what he said is college is a place where a professor's lecture notes go straight to the students' lecture notes without passing through the brains of either. Have you ever slept in classrooms? Well, I slept a lot in my classrooms because I came from engineering, so I'm not saying it's so boring, but it's a perfect place for sleeping. Well, this is obviously not what we want, right? It's the worst, both as an instructor and a student. So I know how bad it is. So what do we want? And this is what we want, right? This comes from my favorite movie, The Wolf of Wall Street. You guys remember the inspiring speech delivered by this guy and IPOs? Okay, and let me quote Blue Touch. He said, "The mind is not a vessel that needs filling, but wood that needs igniting." And this is exactly what I want. I want my students to be ferocious. I want them to be excited. I want them to be inspired. I want them to conquer the world. Okay? That's the impact I want to achieve. How to do that? Okay? The key actually lies in how you are going to entertain and inspire business audience. And if you can do that, you can handle any audience. Okay, actually the answer is very simple. 3 words. Simple, tangible, and sensational. Let me repeat. Simple, tangible, and sensational. So what do I mean by simple? So please don't tell them rocket science. Keep everything really, really simple. Second, tangible. They got to be able to put that into action. Okay? They got to be able to put that into action. Okay? And third one, sensational. So you got to tell them some well-known representative examples with a significant impact. No mediocre impact, okay? Has to be significant, right? And well-known, something that they can feel the pain, right? Okay, now let me give you a few examples. Okay, the first example is a case we wrote back in year 2010 about pandemic influenza. Just-in-time versus just-in-case strategies. Now, this case we wrote it based on real-life events, but we never expect it's going to happen again, like in year 2000, like in this year. All right, we didn't predict it's going to happen, but it did happen this year. So this case is perfect for this pandemic. And the theme of the case is how to align commerce with public health. All right, why do I say that? Okay, now there actually is a significant conflict of interest between the commerce and the government in terms of this pandemic. If you think about this carefully, right? So what do companies want? Companies wants to make money, right? And governments wants to save lives, right? The question is, how do we align the mismatched interest? Mismatched interest. How could it be, right? Okay. Actually, there's a significant mismatch of interest because companies in facing pandemic, what they want to do is just-in-time strategy, right? So they want to produce for the most optimistic forecast because let's put it this way, vaccine, they don't make money. Vaccine is a public health goods. The price is very low, but the cost is equally high. So they don't make a lot of money, right? As much as the pharmaceuticals. So they are very conservative in terms of how much they want to produce. They want to reduce the waste. However, the government want the exact opposite, which is the just-in-time strategy. They want to prevent the worst case. That's why there's a significant mismatch of interest. Let me just give you some quotations. We wrote this case study, so we have some interviews with vaccine manufacturers, and one of them said this, right? Just like you cannot plan for surge capacity in an emergency room of 500 to 1,000 patients from 20 you see in a day. The 1,000 patients. That's what we see in New York in March. Okay, but in an ordinary day before the pandemic, you just see 10 or 20 people. right? He said you cannot have 100 million doses of vaccine sitting around there waiting for something to happen. And what's most dramatic is this guy says that we are for-profit, publicly traded company. What I like to tell people is that neither Santa Claus nor UDChef is listed on NYSE. Right? You see the point, right? So the companies they want to make money. They don't want to prepare for the surge capacities. That's why in New York, when the pandemic hit us, we have so many shortages, which is normal. Okay, it's not if the companies are prepared for the worst case, they all bankrupted. All right, now so it is really the government's responsibilities, right, to fight against the pandemic. So the teaching objective of the case is, right, first, how to predict rare but disastrous events. You know how often pandemic happens in the last 100 years? Anybody? How many times such pandemics happened in the last 100 years? All right, the answer is very simple. Only happened 3 times. Okay, including the Spanish flu. So you are predicting like 3% of the chance, right? So the question is, how do we predict rare but disastrous events using what we call the scenario forecasting? And second is help government designing intervention policies to align the incentives of the private industries, right? Which is actually what the Trump government is doing, right? They want all the supply chain back. The question is how to do that, right? Okay, and finally, how to ease the market entry and improve long-term sustainability. Okay, let me come back to the 3 things we said, right? The analysis is simple, right? Using news vendor model, just a few parameters, you get the result. And the actions are tangible because the government can really put those actions like loss sharing, absorb overreach, right, and things like that into action. And finally, this is clearly sensational events happening right now. Okay, now 3 times. Yes, great. Okay, the second case the second example we want to talk about is a case we wrote about 80 years ago with one of the biggest wireless carriers in the United States. But I cannot tell you who that is. Actually, this company take the need of the transition of the supply chain from store model to showroom model and saved $1 billion in inventory. Okay, let me repeat. This company actually it take the need to transition its store model. It used to have all the inventory, almost 60% of inventories in stores. Now it pull back all of them, right, and convert the stores into showrooms and save $1 billion in inventory. Okay, this case, the teaching objective is supply chain analytics, distribution strategies, which is the pull and push models, and finally how to integrate inventory transportation in logistics. Now, surprisingly, we have 60 weeks of data, but the analysis is very, very simple. You don't even need to take square root, okay? And the action is very tangible because it shows for different products and stores which one should go store or which one should go showroom, right? And the result is sensational because the saving is significant, and all the wireless carriers in US actually followed this company after this company made the transition. Right, this is the case that won the first prize in Forum's 2014 case writing competition. Okay, if I have some time, I want to talk about 2 more things. So we need to also develop some games for experiential learning. Now, cases are great, but games are really thrilling because people can really put their work into actions. So first develop a few online games, which this is called supply chain hunger game or hunger chain simulation for executive education. So this game simulates news vendor and shortage games, such as panic orders, hoarding, rationing, and inventory allocation distribution. And this is the game that selects as the finalist in 2019 DSI Internet Instructional Innovation Award. Tomorrow, actually, we're going to play this game in the workshop, so feel free to join us. And one other game is we develop another game to teach supply chain contracts. right? So the second game is on supply chain floor game. We call that floor park simulation for teaching supply chain coordination by contracts. So students will experiment various supply chain contracts and played out the coordination contracts by themselves. So you don't have the lecture because we wrote a lot of papers on supply chain contracts. But the key question is, how do we convey the ideas to practitioners? Right? If you derive mathematics, or if you just tell them the simplest game setup in an executive room, you're going to blow everybody away. I tried that. Believe me, nobody is going to listen. Right? It's the simplest case. It's too dry and too. Nobody can catch it. But you don't really have to explain that. You just get them into the action, and they were played out by themselves. Right. So the game simulates the complex coordination in supply chain where people shake hands up front and stamping each other on the back. And so they have the learned lesson of living as one or die as two. Any questions?